Hi, friends, and welcome to an episode of Bite Size Bish. I am so happy to be able to bring you this episode today and happy to be talking with you all, of course. But I will acknowledge that today's Bite Size Bish is going to be intense. It's going to be real talk. It's going to be, hard information that I'm going to be sharing with you, but allow me to explain. With what's happening in the world, we wake up every day and there's, news and headlines. And I know it's been stressful for everybody. And it kind of seems like the world is in a really scary place, I think by design to freak people out. And, that's how people are able to gain control. But so I just want to share for people, I've been really behind the scenes, straight up panicking and fearing for my life. And I think it's time that I share with you all. Normally, with my health and with things that go on, I try to not freak people out because that's not what I want to do. But it's time to freak people out because things are scary right now. And so allow me to explain why. On February 9th, 2025, we became informed that President Trump's administration imposed a new policy to cap indirect costs for National Institutes of Health, NIH research. He capped costs, but also cut billions of dollars in funding for life-saving research to develop cures and treatments for diseases. So essentially, this administration has dismantled efforts to find a cure for cancer and other deadly disorders and diseases. And I'm going to just be real and raw with you all in terms of what this means for me. For those of you who maybe, I don't know, are newer to be a listener or, just don't know my story. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. And when I say that the only reason I'm here is because of research and technology, I mean that. And I don't mean that once, but I mean that twice. When I was 17, I had ovarian cancer. By the time they caught it, it was end stage. They did not expect me to survive. People recommended hospice. The only treatment then was chemotherapy, which had a life-threatening allergy to. And once we overcame all that, I miraculously went into remission. No one understood how or why. And, I went on, I got my degrees, I got married, I lived my life. And then in 2014, I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Now, this background is very important because the medication that I'm on now for chronic lymphocytic leukemia did not exist when I was diagnosed in 2014. In 2014, the life expectancy for someone with CLL was about 10 years because there were really no good treatments for it. Chemotherapy saved my life the first time, but with CLL, it's a completely different animal. Ovarian cancer is very acute, it's aggressive, it's quick. CLL is much more complex, it's much more slow growing. When I was diagnosed, I had all of these lymph nodes that were swollen. My specialist at Penn said he's never seen a patient with more lymph node involvement than I had. And so I lived in pain for years until there was a medication that I could go on safely. Chemotherapy, my team agreed, it would probably really destroy my body even further. Because in addition to CLL, I have a host of other complex diseases that, again, are only resolved by research, which has just been gutted. And so the point is that the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society posted something, and I just want to read it in part to help people understand how scary this is for us. They said, as the nation's largest organization serving the critical needs, excuse me, of blood cancer patients, we are alarmed by the recent actions that can only be described as a profound threat to the health of cancer patients. We encourage the administration to partner with patients, clinicians, and researchers to understand and appreciate the full impact its actions have on patients and healthcare infrastructure. Specifically, we call on the administration to reinstate funding for life-saving research, to restore comprehensive health information and data, and to ensure patients can access affordable care. In short, we urge the administration to stop taking actions that risk great harm to patients. The hastily announced cuts to NIH's life-saving health research will be felt swiftly and reverberate for generations. These cuts will be catastrophic to patients, our nation's worldwide position as a leader in research, and to the future of progress of research itself. Brinkmanship tactics may work in some areas, but they are irresponsible and dangerous when applied to life-saving healthcare and research. This current course threatens the lives of some of the most vulnerable patients, myself being one of them. And I'm going to explain why. The medication that I am on now, most people do not recognize this or realize this because I am high functioning. I look great. I sound great. I am eloquent and well spoken, and I can wear a beautiful mask to hide my pain. But the mask is off, and I'm letting you all hear it because the medication that I'm on now is the newest technology available. The last appointment that I had with my oncologist, who, by the way, I have two oncologists because my cancer is complex and confusing. It's not traditional CLL in young patients. It's usually not. And I see a specialist who is the guy for CLL. He just took a sabbatical, a 9-month sabbatical last year to do research to save my life and the lives of other patients because he really does the work. He really does the work. And at our last appointment last year, he said, Melissa, I'm very confident that because of medical technology, you will live to be old and gray. And to have that be threatened, I had hope for the first time in a while. And I think that this move threatens me in such a way that does have me panicked. You'll probably never hear me cry again, or I don't know, maybe you will, but I just can't hide the pain. I can't hide the panic. I can't hide the terror that I feel. I'm meeting with my oncologist in a couple weeks to really get a game plan in terms of how bad is this for me. And the other thing is with the medication that I'm currently on, I've been on it for 5 years. And here's why that's scary. The longer that you're on immunotherapy treatment, and by the way, immunotherapy is just basically a more targeted chemotherapy. It comes in a biohazard bag. It has all of the same effects, except I don't lose my hair, but it is hard on the body. And so I've been on immunotherapy for 5 years. I was on a full dose of my medication, but after a certain period of time, it started to give me cardiac issues, which it is known to do. And so I had to go down on the dose. I had to start taking a half a dose. And since then, my numbers have creeped up slowly, which is not necessarily anything to panic about when we knew that there were other options for me. And so I sit here raw, vulnerable, and I talk to my therapist about this, and all I have is my voice and all I have is my platform because the fact of the matter is that there are no good people left in the arena. There's no John McCain's, there's no Mitt Romney's who I could go to DC and I could write an impassioned letter and I could do what I'm doing now. And quite frankly, the fact of the matter is that no one would care. And that terrorizes me to my core because what it creates for me is another scenario where my survival is threatened by a man. And it doesn't have to be this hard. It just doesn't have to be this hard. I just really want people to hear the pain and understand that this is soulless, what's happening. It's soulless, and millions of people will be impacted, myself included. And so I don't know exactly how I will be impacted. Again, I have plans to talk to my oncologist to figure that out. But just the fact that I have to be here again, right? Struggling to survive is this is a little peek into what creates my complex post-traumatic stress disorder is having my life threatened over and over in very realistic ways. This is not something I can talk myself out of. This is not something that I can just ignore or say, that's not real. This is very real and it's very scary. So I'm going to share with you all the things that I've been doing. Bish therapist approved things and grand Bish therapist approved things for me that I've been doing to cope with the abject terror that I've been feeling. One of them is, for me, I need a break from the news for my mental health. And so because I can do that, like, I don't exactly need to be informed here. In terms of, with my podcast and what I'm doing and what I'm covering. I don't need to like have awareness of what's going on politically. And so for me, I can take a step back and I have. I can't read the news. I just, and of course you can't avoid it, right? Especially being on social media and all that stuff. But as much as I can, I am. And for my mental health, this is the first time in my life that I can say that. And it makes me feel a little ignorant, but I'm like, you know what? Right now, my brain needs ignorance. My brain needs some sort of ignorant bliss because it's just too much. And so I guess I just want to say, if people are feeling like it's just too much, step back in whatever way you can do that. For example, my therapist is, we cried together when I processed this week. And, she said, there's nothing I can tell you to make this better. And, all we can do, for me, the greatest act of resistance is using my very loud voice, using my platform to help people understand what's going on and to give my pain purpose. Because that's all I can do right now. And so just, I'll let you in on how I've been coping. Aside from being mindful about the news that I intake, I have been doing things that bring me a lot of joy. So, for example, I love, home decor and crafting and creating floral arrangements. And just like I have a very creative mind and I really love to make my environment very aesthetically pleasing, but in creative ways that I kind of create myself. And so that's another lane that I've been going in, is when all I can do is feel this horror, the feelings that I'm feeling, and just, number one, acknowledge and accept that this is where I'm at. Number two is, after, when those feelings are becoming overwhelming and I'm feeling like I'm drowning, because it's a fine line between feeling your stuff and like drowning in the pool. And so we don't want to do that. We just want to feel it, but it is a fine line. And so when I'm starting to feel like overwhelmed, I do those things I just mentioned, crafting, all that, whatever. And then the other thing that I've really been doing is a lot of breath work, because for me, my PTSD has been so just, the symptoms have just been so abundant recently. I'll give you an example. My husband and I, we went to see a movie called Becoming Led Zeppelin. My husband is a diehard Led Zeppelin fan. I like them too, but he's just like another level. So Psychotic Eagles fan and huge Led Zeppelin guy, painting a picture, right, of Mr. Bish, as you call him. And we're in the movie theater. And, I wasn't particularly interested in it, but it was one of those things, it's like a compromise of like, he was so excited and I'm happy to just like be here. But, I'm listening. And by the way, these older, they're older men now and they're, British, and they talk very quietly. So it was just a little hard to understand. And the point is that my mind wandered, and it wandered into really dark territory. And so I started to feel myself having a panic attack. And so for me, I'll share what started to happen was my hands became tingly. That's for me what happens. My lips become a little tingly and it feels like I can't breathe and I'm like breathing through a straw. And so I play this fun game that I like to play called Medical Emergency or Psychological Experience. Oh, by the way, the other thing that gets me through is my dark humor. So, as you can hear, I've switched from sadness to dark humor, and listen, this is what I got to do. But and so I I assessed really quickly, I did a scan, and because I know my body so well, here's the thing, if you're hearing this and you're like, "How do you do that?" It's taken me decades of practice and really getting to know my body by listening to it, and so I just listened to it for a minute, I just took some deep breaths, and I understood that this was my mind had wandered onto this topic, and I started to feel scared and threatened and panicked, and because I wasn't completely interested in what I was watching, it was like panic doesn't come in the moment. It comes when you're not distracted, right? That's why panic attacks, people will say it happened when I was at the grocery store, when I was, doing something mindless. Yes, that's when they happen. Because in the moment, right, when I read all the stuff that was going on, I didn't have the panic attack then. It took weeks for it to settle in. And then all it took was for my brain to just like be doing something that I was sitting, I was relaxing, I couldn't distract myself, and my brain just went on overdrive. So I just want to be really clear that that's how it happens. And so I did my deep breathing, and I will share specifically, I have this method. It's called, well, I didn't create it. I just espouse it and use it. It's called the 4-7-8 breathing trick. So you breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, breathe out for a count of 8. Now, if you're not used to breath work at first, this will feel weird and impossible, but it really does train your lungs, your brain, your nervous system to physiologically calm down. Because the thing with panic is that my physiology is sending signals, but I need to let those signals know that they need to relax and go away. So breath work is really how you do that. And I've just been doing a lot of breath work, focusing on it, just, as I'm feeling anxiety throughout the day. So 478 for me is one of the greatest things that I can do. And the other great thing that I can do is express it. So expressing it to friends, loved ones, my small but mighty support team, which by the way includes you all. And so that's all I can do. And so I guess I just hope to validate everybody, who is in a similar space, because the sad thing is that there are so many people in the same boat. It's not just me. And that also makes me sad, because the thing is, for me, I think you probably have noticed this about me, is that when it comes to me, like, I'll be mad and I'll fight for myself, but if someone messes with someone I love, I will claw your eyes out. Like, I will. I'm like, don't do it. So, it's like I can be less fierce when it comes to myself. And I'm just, so part of me is so frustrated for other people too, that I love, that are impacted by this. I love me too. Hello, I'm my own best friend. I've learned that I have to have my own back. And going back to one other thing that I did at the movie theater that's super helpful for me is I visualize my inner child, because my inner child has had so much trauma. And for me, I just visualize my inner child talking to her in ways that I may not always talk to myself, right? Like, I talk to myself as an adult, but there's this inner wounded inner child part of me. I believe in all of us, really, that if we're not attending to, it's hard to fully feel like we have our back if we're not attending to all those parts of us, if that makes sense. And so that was the other thing I did. I just, I do a lot of visualization. I find that really helps me. If I can't imagine my inner child, I imagine my nieces and nephew, who I just adore, because they could have an issue going on and I can have the most love, support, and, I just give them the world. But when it comes to me, it's, my mind is like, bitch, suck it up. And it's like, well, no, that's not the answer. So it just helps me get more compassion for myself. Right. So I don't know if any of this will be helpful, but I hope it is. And I want to say that I hope that this wasn't stressful, but I know it was. And I'm sorry to do it. It's just, this is all that I have. And so from me to you, from my heart to yours, you all are a part of my support system now, whether you like it or not. And so, it's important that I let you in on this stuff. I will keep everyone posted. Obviously, I'm not going to just drop this episode and then like never talk about it again, because that would be insane. After I have an appointment with my oncologist, I will circle back and let people know what the deal is. And he will tell me, he will let me know. He's a straight shooter, and he will let me know how problematic this is and what we need to do. So for now, I will be fine. For now, there is no problem. well, I still have my medication. I'm still getting access to it. You know, and so I will just keep you all posted. And I'm not going to lie, I hated this. I hated doing this. I hated crying publicly. I hated crying privately. I just hated, I'm just going to be clear. I just hated I just hated this. But it's really honestly, it's all I can do. I was born, I think, with just both middle fingers as soon as I came out the womb. I've always had this very resilient, tough personality, mostly because I've had to, but I literally was just born like a little anarchist. And so for me, the good thing is, and this is how I'll end this, is that when terrible men threaten me, I become so stubborn and I will dig my heels in so severely that I could probably survive on spite alone. So I guess I just need everyone to know too that, like, I am tough as nails. I am resilient. I am brave. I am strong. I am courageous. And I will dig my heels in and I will continue. The best act of resistance is just to be beautifully, authentically who I am 24/7, 365, and just honor myself. That's literally that's all I can do. So I hope you all have found some nuggets of information in this today that can help you all. And if not, just to know that we're all struggling. You know, we're all going through it. For today, this is going to be it for me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for holding space. I just send you and yours so much love, and ta-ta for now. Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Great Heart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT Podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, hear on YBT Podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.